last tutorial in the series. I'm going to quickly go through the client host widget updates. Just quickly look at the current position. So at the moment you can see the server, the actual index is updating in the background, but we're not actually updating our user interface, so we're going to do that now. So I'm going to create a custom event. I'm going to call this one client update. It's going to be set to multicast and reliable, and this one custom event, so it's called host update widget. This one is set to run on server and reliable, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull these from over here, Control C, let's break that link there. This is my host, so this is the bottom one. You can go in there. This is my client. This one can go in here. Okay, we are missing an index in here. So dec1 index, index 2, compile save, and then immediately what I can do here off the authority branch is to call the client update and the host update, whether I'm winning or losing, and we will change the logic in a later tutorial. Let's close and save that and play it. So nothing's going to happen on the client, but we can see now we've got movement both on the client and the host. Okay, so what we won't see here, if we try to duplicate that and copy it down here, that would not have the authority to update the screen, and I can demonstrate that. Well, actually we won't. We're just going to go. We're going to now go into our pawn blueprint, and we're going to do the same thing here as we've done with the update index. That update index is calling this on the game state. Okay, updating index 1, and that one update index 2. So we want to call one that will call this host update widget here. So we're going to create a new function in our pawn interface. Add a new function. Call this host update widget, just so that we can recognize the function. Make sure we compile it. Big thing, you know, little tick. We've finished with that. We can close that, and we are now back in the pawn blueprint. We need to call the host update widget. Is it that one? It's the interface call. So the pawn interface. No. What am I doing? It's the event host update widget. Add event. There we go. There's our little interface icon. So, so the same with what we've done here. We've got two custom functions. So custom event. Sorry. So this is going to be update widget. I'm just going to try and retain the same naming convention. So update widget on the server, and another one here, custom event update widget client. This one is multicast. Sorry, this one is run on server and reliable. This one will be multicast and reliable. So now we can call these in here. So I can call the server there. We can call the client. Drag that and drop that on there. Connect them together. And the final thing we need to do is call custom my game state. okay, which is what I'm doing here. Remember, we cast the game state to create that variable. Casting my game state there, and we are going to call the function, and it was server update, no, host update widget, I think it's that one, call host update widget. Oh, cool, that's not great naming convention, is it? My game state, let's have a look. Client update widget, host update widget. I've got two functions, that's not particularly, that's called a host update widget, this is called host update widget. It's probably a bad idea, so I might just change that. I'll probably change that one. Let's leave it like that for now. Okay. So if I double click that, it should actually take me to that one. I know it's working. Right, so at that point we let's duplicate this player controller, and we're going to pull from here, and we're going to call the host update with widget message on the pawn interface. That's not right, is it? We need to compile first. There we go. Host, oh, still there. On the pawn blueprint, it's called host update widget. Must be that one then. Must be my game state. Host update widget message. Yes, of course it is. I'm calling the interface. I am calling the interface, not calling the function. I would have to cast to the game to the pawn to be able to call anything on here. I'm actually calling the interface, and that interface has been implemented inside of the pawn, so I can kind of have a direct communication between the game state and the pawn. So let's connect them like that, and then finally we want to update our client machine as well. Okay. There is one more thing we're going to do, but I'll just take you through a few things before we do that. I'm going to comment this out. So this is updating the widget on through the interface for client and the host. Okay, and that was just a case of drawing around there, pressing the C key, updating the index for deck 1 and 2. Alright, so really we should go around and go back and comment on these, which I will do after the tutorial. So I'll compile this, and I'm going to play it, and we know that this one works, but what's going to happen is very unfortunately I have already done it for you. It's actually worked, so that's you can see there it is working. There is some latency, which is why this card's gone blank here. The client is, because the client's sending this update through the interface, and it's being sent over the network and back from the host back to the client, then we get this kind of delay, which we could compensate for, but we will include a turn-based mechanic later on to resolve that anyway. Yours may not be working at this point. What I've done off camera is I have gone into my project settings and into maps and modes, and I've set my pawn blueprint to the pawn blueprint. Yours will probably be set to pawn. So change that to pawn blueprint, and we're good to go. And that wraps it up. That wraps up this tutorial series. we will come back. I will come back and cover. We're going to properly implement the you win, you lose. We're going to add new mechanics here that will deal with the when you win, you should remove a card from the opponent's deck, and that card should be in your deck. And there will be the game will continue until one player has every card in the deck. We'll also obviously get rid of this, what is at the moment. Every player gets every single card in the deck. We want to split this deck into two and give half of the deck just random order to one player, and then the other half to the other player. So we'll split that deck between the two of them, and then we will deal with we're going to throw in a little function here to disable the user interface for the player. In my HUD, so we're going to disable the horizontal box. So when a player takes his turn, all of these buttons will become disabled. They will all become non-functional until this player takes his go, and it will circulate between. So just one last point is this is particularly this is pretty poor. It happens there, and it seems to be quite consistent. To help resolve some of that, what we're going to do, what I'll do just before we quit, is I'm going to add in a delay. Okay, and this delay is there because of the nature of TCP, the difference between UDP and TCP. Obviously, UDP being an unreliable protocol you will hear in VoIP applications where your voice can deteriorate, but you can still understand somebody. And it's used in games as well, where it's not always essential that the server knows exactly where a player is. The player can report on a regular basis, but doesn't need to know every single location. But in our game, we have a mechanic where you press a button, and that button needs to be registered by both the client and the host. So that does happen on our network. Our network is using TCP. That's where we set it to reliable. So TCP is a reliable connection, but sometimes delivery is never guaranteed. There may be a delay on the network, so by the time we've gone from updating the index, what's happening is this signal didn't get through to the host, and we immediately moved on to updating their widget. So that bit ran, and the client didn't get to update his, or the host didn't update his, and it's because there was some traffic which delayed the signal from going in, and there's a chase. It's called a chase event. Well, it's a type of chase event. It's a networking issue, and we can resolve that. We need to resolve that. I mean, a delay isn't the best way. It's one way of managing network issues, but for this type of game where you kind of need to guarantee that we want to basically say, do not go any further than this, until both have reported in as having the new index both on the client and the host. So we need some more code to set a flag that will allow say that we can continue on to updating both of the widgets now. So we're going to end the series there. I hope you enjoyed it. I will add some new tutorials as I get time. I intend to look at networking, generally setting up the server and creating the game, hosting the game both as a client host network and hopefully as a to how we go about setting up multiple dedicated servers. After that, I'd like to look at obviously improving the graphics, so we might have a couple of tutorials on art. That would be interesting. We'll look at animations. We'll create some really funky buttons, some highlights, animations. We can throw in some 3D from the engine itself and overlay that on our widgets. Or I've actually got an idea. I'd like to make this a VR game, and we can take our we can create like an actor. Don't we want an actor? And we can overlay that actor with a let's take a cube, and then what we do is we add a component which will be our widget. We say the widget should be my widget. Okay, we need to make that a bit bigger. I think, how do I do that? Draw size, I think 500. 1000. What we can do is then let's just see where that is there. Look, we got camera in the scene. So effectively, we could have this card would be three-dimensional. We can give it some physics. And we can make this a VR game. We can throw some animations, throw some graphics into the game and use our widgets to build up a two-player VR card game. So we'll maybe take this tutorial that far. I'd like to look at the economics of the game, dealing with publicizing the game, which means we're going to have to investigate legalities of using, personalities in a game. I'm sure there'll be some premiums that the players would want, and maybe logos and things like that. It might become too problematic to create or too expensive. But we can look at that, and it'd be an interesting thing to investigate. I think I'd like to spend a bit of time looking at setting up your own game studio, and how you do that. How you deal with reporting your income and making sure that everything's above board, and at the same time spending as much time as we can dealing with the engine. We'll obviously publish this for Android, for Apple. We'll get a Windows version up there, maybe a Linux version running, dedicated server or something like that. But definitely the VR stuff would be very interesting, I think, and a lot of fun to learn about, to learn on, learn more on. I can't think of anything else that I'd like to really kind of go through. You kind of have now got a functioning multiplayer, and I mean this will work on your local machine, but to get this working on a multiplayer, what you need to do is to package the game in Windows as a Windows 64 game, You know, you can zip up the project as well, and carry that around with you if you want to use it somewhere else. But you can install this on 2 separate machines on your local network and test it out. I've got a feeling, I haven't tested it myself, I think we haven't created the game mode. We have the game instance. This thing here, we have to create our own game instance, and that's where a lot of our networking would happen. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial series. I think we've learned a lot. We've played about with CSV files. We've looked at data structures. We've had a look at the game engine architecture. Played with with our widgets, which is more or less like a 2D environment, user interface environment that you can use for head-up displays or overlays. We've had a look at the game mode, which is our, only exists on the server. We looked at player controllers that exist on the server and on the clients. We looked at the game state, which is replicated across game across. So we looked at network replication. We've got replicated variables, and we've created some remote procedure calls, RPCs, in our pawn. And we've done quite a bit of stuff there, which is all relevant, not just to games development. There's a lot of stuff that we've covered in here, dealing with data in the way we have, pulling in data structures, pulling in CSV file from a data table, and then populating that in a data structure. That has been quite interesting, and there are this method of having a client and a host set up isn't. This is one way this is the way that I did it, because I was creating a 2-player game. We would need for if you're having more than one player, then we would probably need to look at dealing with giving players numbers. See there, it's not talking, although the server can talk. The client can only talk to the server and not to the other client. So we'd look at some different approach to the logic here, certainly setting up players in our game. Okay, right, so yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope I haven't gone on too much. I know this has probably gone on more than it probably should have done, so I'll cut it here. Thanks for listening. If you've got any comments, you can have a look at my webpage. It's drillep.co.uk, or it's drillep.co.uk, or you can just comment on the YouTube videos, or you find me on Reddit. I go under the name of Drillep on the Unreal forums. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.